grandmother on Ken Island, and I remember my grandmother used to talk about stuff like feeling depression. You see, pressure. You see? And when we think in terms of pressure, that's one of the components of stress. Because stress has a lot to do with pressure. Stress has a lot to do with demands. Stress has a lot to do with tension. And when we are talking about stress, we're talking about a combination of all of those things. People feel that they're being pulled in one direction. They feel that there's too many demands being placed on them. They feel a lot of tension. Okay? And what makes you feel stressed is when you start to think about it, your ability to be able to cope with all of those demands at the same time. Okay? Stress has also been around from prehistoric days. One of the things that you hear about stress is that stress is a situation where you have to think in terms of fighting or fleeing. Okay? It's a fight or flight. So when you're stressed out, one of the first things that you have to do is you have to try to protect yourself, or you run away from it. Now let's talk about this fighting part of it. Under stress, people are able to do some supernatural stuff. You ever realize that? Sometimes you become totally amazed by what you could do. Now, before people started raising Rottweilers, they used to raise Doberman pinchers. So when I was a little boy, like how you see a lot of people with pit bulls and Rottweilers today. When I was a little boy, most people used to be a lot of Doberman pinchers. And one year, I was spending the weekend by my Grammy. I would go to me and my cousin would go to the Bookgrove Theater on Saturdays. 30 cents to go to the movies. And she lived not too far from there. I would go Friday night, we would go to the movies on Saturdays. But there was this neighbor who used to raise Doberman pinchers. And if you see Doberman pinchers, they're really scary looking. And one day we were walking to the shop, and the neighbor must have left the gate open. And 2 or 3 Doberman pinchers came sprinting out of the yard. Let me tell you something. I ran so fast, and there was this old derelict vehicle sitting there. I jumped on that vehicle, and I jumped over about a 5-foot fence. I don't know how I got there. I've never been able to do it again. I've never run that fast. Okay? So we are able to do some supernatural stuff when we are under stress. But stress also has some debilitating symptoms. Stress can cause us to be depressed. Stress can deal with us physiologically, so that we're not functioning. Stress becomes so overwhelming that it applies so much pressure to us that we're unable to perform like how we normally perform. So this is why it's so important to understand stress. See, stress isn't something that you're going to ever get away with or rid of. And that's why you see stuff like coping with stress or managing stress. Because just when you think that one stress is going to, that you've got it down by, another stress comes up. Okay? Give you a typical example. I had 3 children in 5 years. Okay? And I had 3 children in 3 years. And when I, 5 years. And when I was traveling, it was, I thought it was really stressful back then. And then I had 3 teenagers. And I'm trying to figure out what's more stressful. 3 children, toddlers, or 3. Now I got 3 young adults. Okay? And so the thing is that it's just a coping because they leave home, but it's just as if they're not home. Okay? And that's how life is. When you get to paying one bill, there's another bill. And just when you think that life is thrown, you know, that you're out of the midst of stuff, there's something else that goes through. Okay? I don't know if you've ever experienced the loss of a relative. You know, I go back to thinking when I was a little child, when I say how my grandmother said death comes in threes. I don't know how many of you have heard that but I certainly experienced it recently. You lose one person and then you're just recovering, and you lose another person and you just recover, and you lose a third person. Okay? And folks do not understand how stressful that can be. In fact, loss, L-O-S-S, is one of the most stressful experiences that you go through. And the loss of a spouse is you grieve the same way if you lose a spouse, you lose a child, but if you lose a job, it's just as stressful. Okay? You go through the same process. Now that's amazing, right? You would think that losing, but people who lose jobs, okay, experience a lot of stress. And it wasn't until I was in that position, I lost the job. And when I lost the job, I had a new appreciation for people who lost jobs. Okay? The first thing that you do is that you get up and you wonder, how are you going to survive? Okay? And you start to look down the road and you see you're spending more money, but not enough coming in. Okay? Now, let's couple stress with an illness like diabetes. Because one of the issues that we're going to have to focus on for diabetes is that as stress goes up, so does your glucose level. Even when you are eating properly, if you are stressed out, your glucose goes up. Okay? So it's critical for us, and I say us because I'm a part of the group, it's critical for us to understand that there are some things that we have to do to make sure that we maintain our glucose count. And those things include some life-changing stuff. Okay? So let's talk about some stuff. Okay, so there's some myths. When I say a myth is something that we tend to believe, but it's not true. Okay? Like, let me give you a myth. When I turned 11, my cousin was 11 as well, but my cousin started to grow hair all under his arms and all over his body, and I had no hair. So he told me, he said, if we caught a soldier crab and smashed it up and took the fat and rub it all over your body, that you would grow hair. And I'm like a fool, I did that. Okay? That's a myth. You see? No, it still ain't happening. And in fact, I still ain't a hairy person. So that may have worked against me. Okay? But, oh, that ain't also, look here, I kill a lot of soldier crabs so I get out of it. You know? And you know there's the smell of that mess all over you? Oh, yeah. Okay? So these are myths. Stress is a product of modern day life. That's not, stress has been around for a long time. Only bad situations are stressful. No. Good situations are stressful. Okay? Good situations are stressful. Sometimes the birth of a child could create some stress. Okay? Weddings are one of the most stressful times. Brides will tell you that sometimes they lose their hair. My first cousin woke up on her wedding day with measles, and that's because she had buried her mother the day before. She was a healthy child. Her mother died a week before her wedding. The last thing her mother said to her was, go ahead and get married. She went ahead. She's planning a wedding and planning a funeral at the same time. She buries her mother on a Friday. She's normal. She wakes up on Saturday morning to put on a wedding dress, and she's got measles. Not measles, chickenpox. Okay? And doctors say, your system is broken down. You're stressed out. A lot of stress makes you less productive. No. Some people need a little stress in their life to be productive. Okay? Stress is in your mind. No. Stress is perceptual. Okay? Stress is perceptual. And that's why we have to be mindful of each other. Now let me tell you what I mean by perceptual. It means that if I perceive something as stressful, it's stressful. In the same instance that if you go to a restaurant and you order something, and you may say, you don't think that's a bit salty? And I say, no, it tastes fine to me. okay? You perceive it as salty, it's salty to you, okay? It's not salty to me. Well, the same thing with stress, and this is why we have to be a little more concerned about other people. Because when someone else is saying that I'm under a lot of stress, sometimes there's a tendency for us to brush it off and laugh and say to her, she's talking about stress, if she know what I have to do, okay? Me and my wife always get into this, always get into that. I went home last night, I said, you know, teaching is so stressful. I said, those students that I have at the university, and even before I could say something, she said, huh, if you were in my field, okay? And I said, yeah, no doubt, I know your field is stressful, but you gotta understand my field, you see? And we're constantly talking about what's stressful and what ain't stressful. But everything is stressful and it's perceptual, okay? And then what stresses you? Okay, this is supposed to be stresses me. Again, we don't all experience the same stress. So stress talk. Whenever you hear these three things, be on the lookout. You ever hear people talk, I'm under a lot of stress? That means that, look here, what's been placed on me is overwhelming, is overpowering. Okay? I'm stressed out. And even the little children talking about being stressed out. Okay? I took my little niece home today. She wasn't feeling well. And I said, oh, what's wrong? She said, I'm not feeling well. I said, well, she said, I threw up today. I said, what's wrong? She said, it's just too much stress. Them teachers give you so much work. This is an 8-year-old talking. Okay? So basically what she said is just too much. It's too much. Yeah. And not just mark, and just not marking it, but the thing is that you all send stress on for me.
Okay.
You see? Because I thought my days of going homework, I thought my days of going homework was over and done with.
Okay.
But now I have a niece living with me, and I gotta help. And some of these things, I can't remember these things. That was 50 years ago I was learning this stuff. Okay? So, let's look at some stress. Where does stress come from? Demands. Okay? Demands. When people put stress, when people make a lot of demands on you, that's stressful. I want this, I need this, I want that, I need this, I want that. Okay? It gets to the point now where people who make demands, and I'm glad you have ID on the phone. You see, because on that phone, right? And I see something kind of like this. You see, you can easily just click that off, okay? Because sometimes you have to tell yourself, no. You're gonna find out that one of the best ways of dealing with stress is to learn the ability to say no. You have to learn the ability to say no. And as people living with diabetes, it's gonna be extremely important that you learn how to say no. Because people will tap into you. A colleague of mine said that the only thing that you have control over is your time. Don't allow other people to manipulate your time. Okay? People like to put you on a guilt trip. Okay? And by putting you on a guilt trip, they're stressing you out. You need to be able to take control of your time. Okay? Take control. When you are working in areas where other people control you, that's the problem. I worked for 30-something years where I worked for other people 9 to 5. For the first time in my life, I have more control, and trust me, I won't go back there. I'm making half as much money as I made, but I got twice as much time. And someone asked me the other day, they said, look here, you want to come back to your old job? And I said, hell no. And they said, why? I said, because what I have now works for me. You see, because when I worked 9 to 5, and I worked in a particular job, every Sunday night, I had headaches. When you see, it was good during NFL season because I would stay up until 11 o'clock. But like now, where there's no football, and I sit around and I think about, oh gee, I I gotta go to that place 9 o'clock in the morning, and the head start, because I knew the demands, right? And I was trying to do everything, and my blood pressure went up, my cholesterol went up, everything, exercising and still couldn't do it. And I realized that it was the job. Okay? I cannot go back to that because even now, when I go to the doctor, I have a really good checkup. You see? And I knew it had to do with the job. And so, at some point in your life, if you are in a job, and the job, and you notice that you're not changing, okay? Then you need to move on. My closest friend has been about 160 something pounds for the last 20 something years, right? He plays tennis 2-3 times a week. He doesn't eat sweets or anything like that. And he doesn't eat any fried stuff, okay? All he does is that, in fact, he eats oatmeal without, just oatmeal and cranberries and water every morning. And his cholesterol is higher than my own. And his blood pressure is higher. And the doctor said, it's a job. You need to do something. You need to seriously think about it, because when you're doing everything else right, and the job, and it's not going down, it's the job, and it is a demanding job. Okay? But he likes the money that he's getting. Okay? I can't do nothing about that. Okay? Support. Okay? If you are a support system for someone, that can be real stressful. Now let me give you a little insight. Many of us are living in what we call the sandwich generation. You know what the sandwich generation is? We are taking care of children and taking care of parents at the same time, because parents are living longer. That's stressful. Because if you've got to wake up and you've got to take care of a mother or father who's ailing, and you got to get up early in the morning to go there and make sure that they're fed, then you got to deal with your children, then you got to deal with your spouse, then you got to come back and make sure that they're doing well at the end. And that's stress. Okay, that is stressful. But it's a sign of the times. The fact is that parents are living longer, and in our society, we're not like North America or Europe, where you find an old age home and you just, okay? I was talking with my brother the other day, and I said, it's a good thing my father has passed and gone, because can you imagine my father working, like how you see older folks working in Walmart and Targets in the States. I said, you could imagine someone walking around and seeing my father packing bags in Kelly's. That would be the talk of the town. Gee, that man worked so hard to send them boys to school, and look, they have him still working in Kelly's. He in his 80s and still working. Okay? So the thing is that they're not receptive of leaving our parents alone. Now, on the flip side, a lot of us are stressed out because we are taking care of some children that we don't need to be taking care of. Some of us in here got some children who need to be on their own. And not only are we taking care of the children, we're taking care of their children. And their children, mama and dada. There's some of us who need to stop working, who should be retiring, and we cannot retire because we got little Lucretia to take care of, and Shaquandra. Okay? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
There are some persons who cannot enjoy their pension. I got some folks who come to me and say they want to dip into their pension. Why? Because they have children who can't pay their rent. Every payday, there's some people who know, there's some of your children know when you get paid, the 15th and the 30th, and they get that call, you get that call on the 15th, Mommy, you only have a little $100 I could borrow, right? Okay? You have to begin to take care of yourself. Relationships, oh, let's get on to relationships. Some of us in some relationships. Some of us in some feisty relationships. Some of us living in hell. Some of us don't want to go home. Hello, Lion Mike, you better come home. I was driving the other day and I said to my wife, I said, you know something? Now I understand why some men go to the bar room and stay there until 11 o'clock. And they drink and they drink and they drink. So that when they walk in the house, and they lay down and they sleep till tomorrow morning.
Why is she making noise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They ain't checking for that. No? Okay, your role. What role are you playing? Some roles are very stressful. What role do you play? And then change. Change is one of the biggest stressors. Change is one of the biggest stresses. Let me tell you something. I know for a fact. I go to church some days, and when I go to church, as long as that church building is there, I sit in the same pew. You want to see me get upset? Let me back to the church door and look there and see someone sitting in my seat. And I gotta sit. I can't even enjoy the service. I don't take nothing in because I want my seat. And I'm saying to myself, if I'm getting upset over a little change, like a seat in church, what do you think about some major change?
She was just like, she said one place from time at church, she was sitting down one seat. She come and she meet the king and that she can tell him, move away.
Yeah, man, that's throw you off. Now, change is one of the major stresses. We touch base, we'll talk about that a little later. So what is stress? Stress is a non-specific response of the body to any demand placed on it. So whenever any type of demand is placed on you, physically and psychologically, you are stressed out. Stress produces stressors. Stressors are stimuli and triggers that cause a stress response. Okay? So let's talk about stress. So the key, and I'm jumping ahead now to help you. The key is to understand what are the stressors. Because if you can understand what are your stressors, then you'll be one step ahead to dealing with your stress. So think in terms, what are the things that place demands on you? Work, okay? So work is a stressor for you. Okay? And perhaps not every type of work, but the type of work that you're doing now that's demanding is a stressor for you. Okay? What's a stressor for you? Children. Okay? So children produce some stress. And see, it's good to know. Because even as a lecturer, I realized that I can't deal with little children. They stress me right out. So I can't be in a primary school. I can't be in the high school. Okay? I'm a good lecturer, but I need to lecture college students. No, they can move up and down. What I like about it is that my control. See, at the end of the day, I decide on your grade. So you don't even have to come to class. See, I ain't gotta go through all this thing of routine. Did you come to class? Check in this, check in that. Or no, all I do is that I lecture, and at the end of the semester, I give you a grade. If you don't want to study, you don't have to study. You see? So that's perfect for me. Okay? They can be objects. So it can be an object that stresses you out. It can be a place that stresses you out. It can be an event that stresses you out. See, Christmas is one of the biggest stresses. Okay? A lot of people get stressed out. I don't know if you notice what happens come October. People start looking for money all over the place. Okay? You want to see people get upset? Let them expect a bonus at Christmas, and they don't get that bonus. See, that's the problem because they already spent that bonus. They ain't get it yet, but they've already spent it. This is why when we look at mental health facilities and check the records at ambulance, the more persons who are admitted to ambulance in January. Because people get depressed over the holidays because they get all stressed out. I buy you a gift for $250. And you went and you in Ross, you found an outfit for $10. Marked down from 90, but for 10. And you buy that for me. Now, how I'm supposed to feel? I spend $250 and you spend 10.
No, she's still putting the 90 there.
Yeah, but see, that's, no, but see, I've been to Ross. I know. Okay? Disappoint, and then what did you get for Christmas? Nothing. Okay? And then how many of you were expecting to get that little bling bling for Christmas? You've been sitting around and you knew and you say, man, look here, we've been going for so long, that must be coming. Must be coming. And then even though it's this big box for Christmas, you say, how you know how he goes? He must have got that wrap right, that big box, and I can keep opening it, okay? And then when you open it, and ain't nothing there. That's depression, that could send anyone crazy. Okay? People, feelings, or emotions that trigger a stress response. So all of those things create stress. Emotional stress, anger, guilt, worry, impatience, family death, loss of a job. I saw a young man this week, and he said that his father died and he did not have an opportunity to say goodbye to his dad. He said his dad had pissed him off, and he just decided he wasn't speaking to him. Father died. Now he's dealing with guilt. Okay? Stress, can't go to work, constantly crying. Okay? Physical stress. Okay? You work depending on the type of work that you do. Okay? Some jobs are physically taxing. Environmental stress. Okay? Inherited stress. Okay? Some of us have a low tolerance for stress we inherit genetically. We don't cope well with certain things. Okay? All of those things contribute to your total stress. Okay. So stress again has to do with what I told you, this fight or flight response. Okay? Stress is very frequently caused by changes in our lives. Now there are two types of stress. There's eustress and there's distress. Eustress is positive stress, the type of stress that pushes you to do stuff. Okay? Eustress is the type of stress that works against you. So you know that there's sometimes that there's some positive stress and you go home and you say, clean this house tonight, and you could stay up the whole night and you could clean, okay, and get things done. That's positive stress. But the stress that's negative, that keeps you like, I just can't do this, I just can't do it, I don't feel it, that's distress. Okay? So when someone says to you, you are in distress, it means that it's a negative. Okay? Ever notice that when the banks are selling properties, they call it distressed properties? Yeah, it's a negative. It means that it's property that's been taken away from someone. Stress and diabetes. Excessive stress is a major barrier to effective glucose control and a danger to one's general health. This is why we say this for the last, okay? Because you need to understand stress and diabetes do not go together well. Yeah. Yeah, no, and we may laugh at it, but it's a serious thing. Okay, I tell my folks, I say, there's a reason why when you fly on an airplane, they say to you that look, in the event of turbulence, a gas mask will appear, and they say put your gas mask on yourself first before attending to anyone else, even small children. Okay, the message in that is that in the event of an emergency, you need to take care of yourself. Okay? Now, let me explain what I mean taking care of yourself. As a diabetic, you need to make sure that you get your medication. Nothing else comes before your medication and taking your medication. Not your daughter who needs some new pair of tennis. Because if you're giving her the money to buy a new pair of tennis and you're taking your medication, then chances are in a couple of weeks you may not even be there. So how she can get the next pair of tennis? Okay? You need to take control of what comes into your home in terms of what you're going to be eating. Okay? So if it means that you have to now make your diet and you have to eat special things, then that's what you make other people in the family come along with you, especially if you're the one shopping. You know, man, how many times I hear people say, "Child, I had to eat corned beef and rice." And I said, "Why you had to eat corned beef and rice?" Well, because that's what so and so wants. So they didn't want the vegetables. Yeah, but you're in control. So you eating the corned beef and rice because of other people? Okay? When a child has diabetes, the family's potential for stress is high. Let me help you to understand this. We have type 1 diabetics who come here, children. And the stress that the parents experience in coping with children who are diabetics is out of this world. You need to sit down. Last summer, with my summer interns, we interviewed several parents. And when they begin to talk about the stress that they go through with diabetic children, it's amazing. And so one of the things that we have planned for us is that we're going to do continue to provide support to the parents of type 1 children. How stress affects people with diabetes. And people with diabetes, stress can alter the blood glucose levels in 2 ways. First, people under stress may not take care of themselves. They may eat more and exercise less. They may forget or feel they do not have time to check blood glucose levels or plan for healthy meals. This means that you're not focusing on you, you're focusing on other people. Secondly, stress can change blood glucose levels directly. Scientists have studied the effects of stress on glucose levels in both animals and people. Diabetic mice have elevated glucose levels when under physical or mental stress. Right? So that means you're doing everything right. If you got a lot of stress, those things go down. Okay? You're taking your medication, but it's elevated, it means you got to look at the stress. Now I see why the Bible said that if the right arm offends, or one arm offends, okay, there's certain things that you got to cut off. You know, there's some practical stuff. We tell our children stuff like that. Now you got exams coming up, you got to cut all these things off because you got to get through the exam. Yeah. So now you're diabetic. Okay, you're a person living with diabetic. There's some things you got to cut. Okay. The heart. So when you're under stress, the heart works faster and harder in preparation for physical action. It increases pulse and blood pressure, causes a strain on the heart, veins, and arteries. Prolonged stress also has a negative impact on the body system. So what are we talking about? If you are under stress for an extended period of time, then your immune system goes down. That means everything that's going wrong, you catch it. Okay? We talk about a child, I don't know what happened. I had the flu 2 weeks ago and it come right back again. Okay? It came back again because of your immune system. Okay? Your digestive system, not eating properly, not being able to keep food down. Your kidney, okay? And your reproductive system. Let's focus on that. Because men, if you're under stress, you will not get an erection. And then you're gonna stress that woman out. Because you're gonna be laying there and you can't function, and you getting stressed, and they getting stressed. And in other words, you don't want to hear, well, what's wrong with you? You can't rise it. Just wasting my time, yeah. Okay? Women the same thing. This is painful. Okay? I'm not enjoying it. You gotta take care of yourself. Men, we know that we don't need added pressure. Men do not need added pressure. You know that the thing is that when you start, if you take your mind off something and you start worrying about the bills, you start worrying about this, you start worrying about having to go to work, whoop, nothing happened. I saw an interesting thing on Good Morning America yesterday. They did a research, and it's so interesting. They said that women, and this is on hundreds of thousands of women around the world. They said women are more sexually energized at 11 o'clock at night, and men are more sexually energized at 7 o'clock in the morning. Huh? That's the thing. And one of the things is that they say men need their rest and their strength. Interesting. Think about it. Men prefer to get up in the morning and have something before they go to work.
So how do you regulate these two clocks?
Well, it means that sometimes you gotta get your rest. That means that some of the things that you've been doing that makes you fall asleep at 11 o'clock, you need to cut out so that you're well rested. And then if you do that, then you can have a double whammy. You can have it at 11 and at 7. Okay? But you gotta take care of yourself.
You can't overeat.
No, you can't overeat and see too much sugar. If too much sugar, if your sugar level's too high, you ain't gonna sustain no erection. Regardless of how much camaraderie you push in medicine, you take. You understand? Now, see, God funny, you know. Let me tell you what. Men hit their sexual peak in their early 20s. Women hit their sexual peak in their 40s. So when you're on the decline, you're on the rise.
Again, you gotta regulate two clocks.
Yeah. So it means you gotta do some resting. It's like you gotta tell yourself, I'm in for a double shift.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of it. Okay? But this is important because this is where some issues happen. Okay? The bedroom is important. We are sexual beings. Okay? And for males, our sexuality, our masculinity is tied to our sexuality. Our ability to reproduce is critical to us. Enough about that. Okay? So how can stress be harmful? Excessive stress works against diabetes management. Okay? Because one, the increase in blood glucose levels, okay? Inciting strong negative emotions. See, stress goes with negative emotions, and negative emotions works against diabetes. When your glucose level goes up, there's impaired sound thinking and decision making, and then you go on to these tempting compulsive or eating binges. Okay? Whether or not you have diabetes, over time, stress is harmful because it causes you so much wear and tear on the body. 80% of visits to doctor's offices are stress related. Most of the time you go to the doctors for colds and for infections and stuff like that is a result of the stress in your life. You're not resting properly, you're not taking care of yourself. See, look at those things. Chronic stresses, being a carer, moving into a house, divorce, life changes, illness, death of a loved one. All of those things. In fact, the most stressful life event that you could go experience is the loss of a loved one and the loss of a spouse. Anyone here has lost a spouse? You lose a spouse, and they say that's the most difficult thing that you could go through. So what are the symptoms of stress? Well, a couple of things. You know you're stressed out when you're sleeping too much or you're not getting enough sleep. Okay? Research is showing that you have to have 7 hours of sleep for maximum functioning. So that means we got to make some changes. And look, it's not easy. I was watching a show the other day where they were interviewing a commentator. You know, persons like who work on Good Morning America, the Today Show. Okay, in order to be there for 7 o'clock, to start at 7 o'clock, they are picked up at 4 o'clock. Okay, they're picked up at 4 o'clock. That means that they have to be up by 3 o'clock. Okay, so in order to go to bed, they have to go to bed early. And one of them was saying that she goes to bed at 8 o'clock every night, regardless of what's happening. She goes to bed 8 o'clock. It has to be a special event to stay up. They have to train themselves because they need it. Think about pilots. Pilots have to condition themselves. I know you don't think about it, I fly in tomorrow, but when you think about it, many of us just go on a plane and take a seat, but we don't think in terms, who is the person who's flying that plane? Did they get enough sleep? When last did they have a drink? Did they smoke a joint? Did they take their medication? Okay? So that's what we've got to start thinking about. We are sleeping too much because sometimes people sleep too much because remember, you know what else goes with diabetes? Anxiety and depression. Okay? So some people, when they're under stress, all they can do is sleep. I'm like that. Yeah. Every time I wake up and I think about all the stress that I have, I go back to sleep. And my wife says, "What happened?" And I say, she said, "You're sleeping all the time." In fact, that's how my family will know if something's wrong with me, because usually I'm upbeat, I'm always doing stuff, okay? Now, let me, in fact, this is a good time for me to share this with you. There's something called in the grip, okay? You will always have an idea when something is wrong with a person because they actually act the opposite to what they totally okay? So, let me give you an example. A person who's normally friendly and chirpy and talking and walks in, and when they walk in, they say, "Good morning, how y'all doing? Good morning, how y'all doing?" Okay? No, if that's the typical person, when he walks in one morning and he says, "Good morning," you know what everyone says? What's wrong with him? Something's wrong with him. He's in the grip. That's the psychological phrase. Okay? Then the person who walks in typically and doesn't say anything is the person who comes and says, "Good morning, ma'am. Goes to the office. When they walk in and they say, "See, I don't want no one to say nothing to me. I'll slap anyone now who comes saying anything to me." Okay? You automatically know. So the person says, what's wrong with him? Okay? Because you know. Okay? Changes in appetite. When people are stressed out, they either pig out or they don't eat. Significant weight loss or gain, frequent bouts of crying, trouble with memory or concentration, anxious thoughts, muscle tension, irritability. A lot of you know when you're stressed out because you physiologically you feel different. I'm gastrointestinal. When I'm under stress, I stay in the bathroom. I know something's wrong. Okay? There's some people who have migraines. There's some people who have backaches. Okay? There's some people who have headaches. Okay? Your body lets you know also when it's stressed. Irritability. You miss and say something to the wrong person and they jump all over you. Okay? Feeling low or depressed, being easily angered. Stomach problems, vomiting, nausea, stomach aches, diarrhea, constipation. All of those things. Okay? Other symptoms, loss of interest in sex. Okay? Men, we don't go to bed, I'm watching this game. You go, I come in like that, you go. Okay? Until she says, now let's have a talk. Are you seeing something else? Okay? A lot of times in counseling, that comes up. A spouse says, I think he's cheating on me because he hasn't had sex with me in weeks. Okay? And you speak to the man and he's saying, she just don't understand what I'm going through. I got all these responsibilities. She said she want a new car. I get a new car. The mortgage this, the mortgage that. I'm tired. I work in 2 and 3 shifts. I get home. The last thing I need is sex. Okay? So now sex even becomes a stress. Instead of something pleasurable, you see it as stress because it's a performance that you have to do that you ain't feeling up to it. Avoidance of work or school tasks, change in relationships, headaches, feeling your heart beating, trembling, feeling faint, sweating, teeth grinding, feeling uneasy, on edge. All of those things are signs and symptoms of stress. So I was telling you about the life scale. You might look at it, the death of a spouse, 100. Divorce is next, 73. But look at the gap. Now, not only if you and your spouse got along. Let's say if you and your spouse didn't get along, that might be okay? Yeah, that's like my aunt. After my uncle died, and they said, well, honey, how come you weren't crying? She said, child, every time I think of how you used to treat me, I suck them tears back out. Okay? So for her, death was relief. Okay? And there are some people who live like that. Okay? Because the loss of a spouse gives them a new opportunity. But think about it. Marital separation. Okay? Jail, death of a close member. Now, they say if you experience 3 of these in 1 year, then you're really stressed. But more than that. Okay? More than that. And what do most people do when they get all stressed out? Like my client, she says, oh, I drink. She says that every night before I go home, I stop to the bar and I buy myself a half pint, and I go in and I drink until it's time to go to bed. And why is she drinking? Because she has 3 sons who live with her, all of the 30 who are not working, and she has to take care of them. Yeah, but that's a term that Dr. Clara Bella Gardner, who's a psychiatrist I work with, says that Bahamian mothers need to be called smothers.
That's right.
Not mothers. In fact, I can tell you this, in that she had her patients, her male patients, all alcoholics, walk around the alcoholic unit with holding their crutches and she said every time you hit the front door, you say, Mommy, can I have my testicles back? Now, you know what she said? That a lot of mothers have control over their sons, that they have castrated their sons. And so, because you smother your child, your son, it also means that he's a problem for that wife that he has to take on. So you gotta let go. Yeah, but you know how many times, from an HR point of view, you know how many times I've dealt with men who are married and forgot to take their mother off as their beneficiary, and something happens, and of course you see some true colors, because mom comes there and you say, now mom, for for some reason, he never took your name off. So now, you were the beneficiary. But he has a wife and a child. I never did like her. She ain't getting none of this. I put him all through school, and he come back and he married, and I still paying that mortgage for his school fees. Child, hell no. Okay? You see all of those things. See, man, sexual difficulties is stress. Okay? So, how do we tackle this thing? Well, the key is to always try to figure out what are the stressors. Okay? So you keep a diary. You observe what causes stress in your life and how you usually react it. Now you have diaries for as people living with diabetes, right? Where you monitor and you journalize what is it that your sugar count and what you eat and stuff like that. Well, that's the same way you manage stress. You buy yourself a journal and you write down, I've noticed certain changes in me, okay? What is it that's been happening? What's going on? Why am I feeling this way? Even Weight Watchers and stuff like that. You monitor, okay? You may want to narrow your diary down to one significant area. You decide every day you're gonna work, you're gonna write in your diary, and you're gonna begin to look for patterns, okay? So now you notice every time such and such a person comes around, I get all upset. And you begin to realize that's a stressor. Okay? Every time my mother-in-law calls, my pressures just go up. Okay? You know mother-in-law is a stressor. Okay? Every time a certain supervisor is working and you have to be on that shift, you feel like, I gotta call in sick. Notice that any of you do shift work. There's some supervisors, when you call it, that schedule come out and you say, who supervised it? There's Dan? Oh, hell no, I call it in sick today. Okay? That in itself tells you that's stress. If you can't go to work because there's Dan working, that means you got an issue. That's a stressor. Okay? Use a simple notebook or binder or bound book or diary. Do what is most comfortable for you, but start to figure it out. How to tame stress. Keep a positive attitude. Okay? We tend to always look on the opposite, the negative, as opposed to the positive. Now let me have, any of you ever heard about this? A psychological phrase called the locus of control. Locus of control has to do, where do you attribute problems in your life? You have an internal or an external locus of control. If you have an internal locus of control, then you see yourself as the fixer of problems. If you have an external locus of control, you blame other people. So let me tell you internal. You go for an interview, you don't get the job. Someone with internal locus of control says, okay, I didn't get it, now I need to go back and do some stuff differently. I realize I may not have gotten the job because of A, B, C, D, but the next time that interview comes up, I'm gonna get it because I'm gonna put everything in place. Okay? Persons like that are less problematic and they don't get all stressed out. Persons with external locus of control blame other people. So how you do? You don't get the job? Child, and people never did like me. But that's the steam they steam. I could tell. From 1971 when I walked inside that company and I was wearing my Gucci shoes, she saw my Gucci shoes and she took a dislike to me. And ever since, I don't know why these people don't like me. You see the difference? One person can deal with the stress because they realize it's something they have to do. The other person creates more stress because they figure that everyone else is against them. Okay? Be kind to yourself. Okay? It's okay to say no to things that you don't really want or need to do. You don't need to be, every time the church door open, you don't have to be there. You don't always have to, every time there's a function, you don't have to take it on. Every time someone say that they need money, you don't have to be the one to find it. Okay? You have to take care of yourself. You have to accept what you can't change. That's the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom. Wisdom. And what it means is a lot of us don't have wisdom. Just say next, you see? Will this be important 2 years from now? Do I have control over these circumstances? Can I change my situation? If you can make things better, go for it. If not, is there a different way to handle it? Certain things you can't do anything about. So what you getting all stressed out for? Talk to someone. Okay? Tap into the power of exercise. This is why exercise is so important. Okay? Tips on how to rein in diabetic stress, and I'm almost there. Set clear goals for diabetes management. Okay? Don't forget your medication. Keep your regular appointments with your doctor. You know, when I worked in substance abuse, when persons didn't show up to clinics, I knew they had relapsed. See, going to see a doctor, even though you are you may not have done your best, continue with the pattern. Keep your appointments. That keeps you on track. The minute you start, they say, I call and I say, how come you didn't come to the clinic to urine testing and stuff like that? Oh, they put me on this shift and no. And then you call next week. How come you didn't? Oh, I was so tired. And I would say to my colleagues, I say, you back on cocaine. Okay. And let's help with cooking, break exercise at the moment. Okay, these are the basic stuff. Okay, visualize. Okay, sometimes you're in stress, but you gotta see yourself out of stress. You know, the Calgon Take Me Away in my show. Okay, sometimes you just gotta imagine a whole new world. That's why daydreaming is so good, you know. Because daydream allows you to escape the reality of some situations. Okay? Again, imagery. Sometimes 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm coming from UB. Sometimes I don't want to go through traffic, especially if I stress. I take the eastern road and I look at the sea. And that calms me down before, you see? And by the time I get home, when my wife says, how you doing? I can say, good. But if I have to go bumper to bumper in traffic and stuff like that, I could walk in the house, man, just waiting, and it's almost like I want you to say something to me. Okay? So I can unload. Okay? Yeah. You know when you're small, sometimes you want to be bad. Oh, please say something to me so I can slam you. You know, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay? So sometimes you have to use the scenic view to calm down. And there ain't nothing as beautiful as driving along the sea. Okay? But you coming through McCullough Corner, and this and that bumper to bumper, and this person trying to get out, and you know this with traffic, when we stress in the traffic, we get real mean. Man, you hold your head like this, and that person there trying to get, and you hold your head, because you already decide if you let one out, then 10 go on, come on. So you, okay? Okay. So, let me just tell you, again, let's quickly go through it. Body, when you're under stress, headaches, frequent infections, taut muscles, muscular twitches, fatigue, skin irritations. There's a good friend of mine, whenever he comes and his face is all ashy, I know it's stress. And I say, what happened? He said, man, under a lot of pressure. And as soon as the pressure goes away, his skin clears up. Okay? Emotions, loss of confidence, more fussy, irritability, depression, apathy, alienation, apprehension. Apathy is like, you know, I just don't care. Okay? Alienation, you won't be by yourself. I don't feel like mixing with people. Then the behaviors. When you're under stress, you become accident prone. loss of appetite, loss of sex drive. Man, I don't know why that keep coming up. And then drinking more,
That ain't
insomnia,
male too.
restlessness. Huh?
You know, enter a state put
Notice all the females keep it quiet. Okay, and then the mind, worrying. Okay, muddled thinking, impaired judgment, nightmares, indecisions, negativity, hasty decisions. Okay, they're all indications of stress. Now let me close with telling you, change, let's be careful with change. We live in a changing world. Okay? There's a story that's called Who Moved My Cheese? If you ever had a chance to read it, read it. Who Moved My Cheese? You see, because it's the story of these 4 mice who lived together. And one day, the 4 mice came out of their little hole, and there was no more cheese left. 2 of them immediately panicked and started crying. How are we going to survive? How are we going to survive? There's no more cheese. The other 2 came out and said, there's no more cheese. This means that there's cheese someplace else. We just have to go and search for it. Now, who are you going to be? Are you going to be the ones who are going to sit around and complain? Or are you going to be the ones who will go and search? You see, change is one of the biggest stressors. Change, a change of anything. Okay? So let's close with these comments. Change happens. People will keep moving the cheese. You must accept that your life now is different. Regardless of what you do, chances are, for most of us, we're not going to go back to how we used to. So your life has changed. Now, I am not saying, let me tell you how I want you to see life. You are a person living with diabetes. Not dying with diabetes. Living with diabetes. So you now have to change the way that you live. You know the problems that this disease brings on. So you've got to make the necessary changes. That's what coping with is all about. What is necessary? You know, when HIV came out, everyone thought it was a death sentence. You realize that people are living with HIV longer than regular people today? They take better care of themselves. They're taking their medication because they realize if you take your medication and you do what's necessary, you can protect yourself. Anticipate change. Always be prepared for changes. See, part of our life as diabetes is that we gotta anticipate. You're gonna be prepared. You're gonna go to a function and they may not have what you want. Okay? Anticipate it. You know, my wife gets angry with me. I mean, because she says, I'll be sitting there eating breakfast, and she says, and I'll say to her, so what are we gonna do for lunch? And she said, but you eating breakfast, what you worrying about lunch for? And I said, I gotta worry about lunch and I gotta worry about dinner. I said, because you know what happens when I get home at 7 o'clock in the evening and there's not a prepared meal, I go into that hypo-desperate thing. And the closest thing to me is what that place called? The Louisiana fried chicken place. Popeyes. Okay? I say, and Popeyes could become very, very, you know, when you're hungry. So you gotta anticipate change, you gotta plan. Okay? You also have to monitor cheese. Okay? Smell the cheese often so that you know when it's getting old. Okay? This is especially for relationships. There's some people in your life who are stressing you out. And if they're stressing you out, get rid of those things. Throw out the old cheese.
Tell a woman that you may get yours.
Huh?
Tell a woman that you may get yours.
Well, that's how you tell her. That's how you tell her. Because see, some people you can tell go to hell, and they'll enjoy going. That's how you paint the picture. Okay? Adapt the change quickly. Okay? Change. Move with the cheese. You ain't gonna be like last year. You know, we keep reminiscing. And some of us is still, some of us don't even do it with diabetes. Some of us do it with people, with relationships. Some of us still holding on to them relationships from 1980 and them oh I know I'll never love this way again. So I keep holding on. You know? No, some of us we gotta move, we gotta change. bring an end to certain things, and be ready to change quickly and enjoy it. But I want this, enjoy change. Enjoy change. That's what coping with diabetes is all about, enjoying the change. My daughter has started cooking some things. And let me tell you something. She's been cooking some vegetarian stuff. And I still like it. You know, I'm a meat person. I like meat. But some things I thought I couldn't do without rice. I thought I couldn't do without macaroni. I thought I couldn't do without potato salad. Okay? I still can't do without Coke. That's my struggle. No, not that drug Coke, that Coca-Cola, you know. Coke, yeah. But that's a challenge. And why you going to cheesecake? Okay? In fact, I travel tomorrow and I already got my list. I want to go to Red Lobster as soon as I land. I want Cheesecake Factory. I want PF Chang's, right? But guess what? All those things. But I look at the menu differently now. You see? Yeah, I realized that there's some things on those menus that I didn't notice before. So I don't stop myself from going there. I just make better choices. And that is how you got to cope with stuff.
So what you do with the cheesecake?
Huh?
What you do with the cheesecake?
Oh, let me tell you something. What I do now, before, let me tell you, let me give you a joke. Let me give you a joke. Let me tell you how I deal with it. First of all, I realized that cheesecake is huge. I don't need all that. You see, before, I would have a piece, my wife would have a piece, my children would have a piece, 5 pieces, right? Now what we do is we order one. And you cut it, okay? But guess what? Guess what? Let me give you the joke. Before I go to Cheesecake Factory, I get up early that morning and I go downstairs in the gym and I walk the treadmill for an hour. Yes! You see what I'm saying? Because I ain't giving up with the cheesecake.
Someone they made the cheesecake, but they didn't use sugar. They used a 0-calorie sweetener. It was an experiment, but we still reading on the person who was the rock to tell us how to taste. I ain't food memory, so must he take it back.
Yeah. And then I go to special occasions.
Okay.
It's not an everyday thing, but the thing is that there may be a special occasion. You see? So you limit this portion control, okay? And the fact is that you balance stuff out. So if you know you want to, it's the same way that you've been so up with your meals. If you want to have an extra something here, then you cut out on something here. You give up. You see? And that is the excitement. Now think about that. If you master that, think about how you'll master romance. Honey, I'll give you a little of this for a little of that. I end with that. Okay, so that's me. You completed the course.